Welcome to the Salem News Channel, the Salem Radio Network, and all of our great radio affiliates across the United States. There's a lot of news today, so stay right where you are for all 3 hours of today's program. I have coming up in hour number 3, Nadav Eyal, one of Israel's leading journalists. You don't want to miss his perspective on the war, which President Trump just updated minutes ago in the Oval after the swearing-in ceremony for Mark Wayne Mullen as the new Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security. Cut number 9.
Are you going to send Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff to do direct negotiations with the Iranians?
Yeah, well, we're in negotiations, as it turned out, and now you've seen what I said yesterday was exactly correct. We're in negotiations right now. They're doing it along with Marco, JD. We have a number of people doing it, and the other side, I can tell you, they'd like to make a deal. And who wouldn't if you were there? Look, their Navy's gone, their Air Force is gone. Their communications are gone. That's the biggest problem. It's very hard to communicate them between themselves. All of the anti-aircraft is gone. Most of their missiles are gone. We either shot them or they shot them and don't have them anymore. They're down to a trickle. They're pretty much everything they have is gone. I don't know. Can you name one thing that's not gone, or can you name one thing that's doing well? You know, if you read the papers, you think we're tied. You think we're in a tough battle. We are roaming free over Tehran, the city, Tehran, as opposed to Iran. We're roaming free. We can do whatever we want. And as you know, today we were going to have the privilege of shooting down a very big electric generation plant, one of the biggest in the world. And one shot to the right location ends the plant, it collapses. And we held off based on the fact that we're negotiating.
That is a good summary of where we are. I'll play you a little bit later in the program my appearance on America's Newsroom with Dana Perino earlier today. We're going to win. We're going to win through negotiation, or we're going to win through just crushing them to the point where we bounce the rubble, but we're going to win. Let me now, however, take a big diversion away from the war. I'll come back to the war. But there was an argument today at the Supreme Court, Watson versus RNC. And it's an argument with the Mississippi Solicitor General, Scott Stewart. Justice Gorsuch is going to go round and round with him about whether or not it is constitutional to accept ballots after the specified election day on a federal election. Cut number 6.
Well, I want to ask you about the recall problem. And before I get to that, throughout your brief, you say that the federal statute does require voters to submit their ballots to election officials on election day, must be cast by election day, and that the election day is the day to conclude and consummate the election through a final selection. You agree with all those statements in your brief?
Yes.
Okay. But at the same time, you say, actually, it doesn't have to be submitted to an election official. It just has to be submitted to a common carrier. And there's a contradiction there that I just want you to first address, and then I'll give you my hypothetical.
Very good, Your Honor. I think when you put something in the mail, you're not, I think.
That's not an election official. FedEx isn't an election official.
Right, but the recipient certainly is the person who you're submitting it in the mail to. I mean, that is the recipient.
Of course.
And, right, Your Honor. And I think.
You submit it to FedEx and they deliver it to the election official. But you say it has to be submitted to an election official throughout your brief, but then you say a common carrier is okay. And those two things don't add up.
Well, I think the difference is, say, sending it to your brother versus sending it to the registrar.
Well, we already dealt with that. The brother turns out to be okay, so long as the state says so.
I think that's okay on their view, Your Honor. I'm a little more guarded up.
I think you already answered that one. So here's the hypo. Let's say you have a state where a large portion of the electorate mails in their ballots on or close to Election Day. Not far-fetched. Many states are like that. Then, the day after the election, a story breaks that one of the lead candidates engaged in an inappropriate sexual escapade, or perhaps is concluding with a foreign power. Again, not far-fetched, I think. And the competing candidate immediately goes on the airwaves and urges voters to recall their ballots and to tell the common carriers not to deliver them. And many common carriers will do that with anything that you send through them. FedEx, you just call them up and say, I want it back. In that hypothetical, did the election happen on election day? Oh, by the way, it swings the election.
So the election did happen on Election Day, Justice Gorsuch. As we've explained, our ballot does not allow using mail recall, anything like that. When somebody submits their ballot by mail.
Just first deal with my hypothetical, and then I'll deal with your statute.
Okay. The election happened on Election Day.
Even though it changes the outcome.
I mean, I think
it has to be your answer, doesn't it?
I mean, yes, Your Honor. I want to be clear about
All right.
We are not agreeing that the outcome can be properly changed in that circumstance.
Well, hold on. It did in my hypothetical. You can't change my hypothetical, counsel.
And I'm just saying it's unlawful, Your Honor. I don't mean to disparage your hypothetical. I'm just saying that it's an unlawful circumstance because we don't allow ballot.
Oh, in Mississippi. Okay. But that hypothetical could happen in another state, right?
I think if the state is not providing that on mailing there's a final choice made, I think that would be a problem with that law under the federal statutes.
Now, you say your statute, you're different. You admit my hypothetical could happen, but you say it can't happen in Mississippi because recall's not allowed. I couldn't find that anywhere in Mississippi law. In fact, what I did see was a statute that says that the Secretary of State can promulgate rules and regulations. That's 23-15-637-3. And then I went and looked at the regulations, and Rule 2.1 says that an absentee ballot is the final vote of a voter when the ballot is marked accepted. That doesn't preclude recall. In fact, that allows recall.
I respectfully don't agree with that, Your Honor. I mean,
where does it say recall's not permitted? I couldn't find that anywhere in your statutes or the rule.
And I think by providing that ballots are final when cast under our statute.
No, it doesn't. It says they're final when marked accepted.
That's the regulation, Your Honor.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's your regulation. And it allows recall.
It does. Respectfully, it does not allow recall, Your Honor.
Show me where. Would you read to me the provision that precludes it?
It's subsection 3 of the statute that my friends have found.
I read you said subsection 3 that says the Secretary of State can make rules, and then I read you the rule.
To ensure that the ballots are final when cast. The key thing is ballots are final when cast.
It says votes promulgated by an absentee ballot, that the absentee ballot person's absentee vote is final. You can make rules about when they're final. And what the rule says is it is final when marked accepted.
And it's speaking to a processing rule about what to do when somebody's ballot potentially doesn't arrive on time. They submit an affidavit ballot. But I would come back to the text of the statute, Your Honor. I mean, final when cast is what our law.
You know, it's a very, very, very tricky judge who actually reads the statute and the regulation. At that point, the Mississippi Solicitor General should have objected to the fact that the Justice Gorsuch had read the statute and the regulation, or he might have said respectfully, Your Honor, throw a bucket of water on me so I can melt, because I'm melting here. Can't you tell that I'm melting in front of everyone, and it's on the recording, and they're going to be playing it in con law class forever, not to answer this way. The way to answer that is to say you present a very difficult situation, Justice, one which I had not considered. And if you will permit, we will submit a supplemental brief on that, because I do believe there is some provision of which I am not presently aware or can recall that would speak to your question. But you do appear to have me in a bind. Now may I disappear? Can you give me Harry Potter's invisibility cloak? Oh, that was brutal. Not as brutal, though, not as brutal as John Kennedy on Fox News talking about Chuck Schumer today. Cut number 4.
He's lying. He's lying like fish swim. I mean, here's what's going on. We've been...
Start again. He's talking about Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, who you'll hear in the next segment with Mike Duncan of the Ruthless Podcast. The Democrats want him gone. He should not go to the forum on the Ides of March. We're already past the Ides of March, maybe the Ides of April. He ought to stay away from the forum or the Senate or whatever. But here's the beginning of John Kennedy, cut number 4.
He's lying. He's lying like fish swim. I mean, here's what's going on.
Let's go back. It doesn't matter what follows. This is Chuck Schumer. This is John Kennedy on Chuck Schumer's comments.
He's lying. He's lying like fish swim. I mean, here's
again,
what's going
there's
on.
Neil Gorsuch, which is the Jinsu knife, and then there's the shotgun that is John Kennedy. How would you rather go? I think I'd prefer the shotgun. I wouldn't want to be Jinsued by Justice Gorsuch. Joined by Michael Duncan, one of the fellows on the Ruthless podcast. Well, he joins me once a month. The other three fellows come in. Once every month they show up or so. Michael, I don't know that I've talked to you since Indiana University, your alma mater, won the national championship. I want to congratulate you. And I also want to know, I don't know if you have kids, but if you did have kids, did you watch the game with them?
Yes, Hugh. Thank you for the congratulations. If Indiana can win a national championship, anybody can. I hope it inspires everybody. I did take our 6-year-old Joey to an IU game in Bloomington, and he absolutely loved it. They didn't manage to stay up for the whole national championship, but they are very excited that IU won.
Well, I was 12 years old when Ohio State won in 1968, Rex Kern's team, and I can barely remember it, and my dad was pretty excited. And it's just great. Holmes was on last week talking to me about watching the hockey game with his kids, and it's a really kind of special deal when dads and kids can watch sporting events. They'll remember it even if they don't get the details right. Next question. You guys, the fellows were pretty hard on Bryn Mawr and Sarah Lawrence today. Now, their universities like IU, what's the difference between IU and Sarah Lawrence and Bryn Mawr?
How dare you, Hugh? We are an athletic powerhouse at IU. How dare you?
I just wanted to stick up for Sarah Lawrence and Bryn Mawr. You guys, all right, now here's the serious question. Ground rules. Okay, there are ground rules, Duncan. It's like when you play one of your games. I never rag on anybody with whom I've worked before. So on the no ragging list are Chuck Todd, Jake Tapper, Dana Perino, Wolf Blitzer, Lester Holt, and Kristen Welker. So we can't rag on them. Nevertheless, I want to talk about sets. Now you look behind me and there's a set. It's the same set, Salem News Channel set, on the East Coast, the West Coast, and Studio North. They made me change all my sets, which had been installed by NBC, which were like Jake's new set full of, it looked like my office, the stuff I've got on every desk in the world. Ruthless set is Spartan. In fact, let's go to the picture of the Ruthless set right now. This is a Spartan set that we're looking at with Duncan, isn't it? Would you consider that Spartan?
Yeah, I think we let the words speak for themselves,
That's not actually the set. That's their dress-up set. Go to the live shot of Michael. That's their dress-up set. Michael's on their real set. That's their real set. That's when they got, yeah. That's not, it's Spartan. So what do you think is going on? This is set number one, like the old Make a Deal. This is set number one. Yours is set number two, and Jake Tapper's is set number three. Which one would you take?
I don't think that much about the set. I appreciate the production. Shout out to Lee Wolf, our executive producer. I think has made a fantastic set with fantastic lighting. I think a beautiful set helps. I think a handsome host like you, Hugh, I think it helps. But I think ultimately at the end of the day, it's what you discuss, the honesty, the authenticity that makes people listen to you and trust you. And I think that's the issue with CNN is they've lost the trust of the audience. So they can change the format however they want. They can change the background or put it in someone's office. I don't think it's going to change the outcome.
Okay. I think that Spartan is the new look. And I like the Ruthless set because it is Spartan and there is nothing to distract from the fact when you guys are laughing and you see your expression. So I think they made a mistake at CNN. And I'm not saying that to wish Jake ill because of my rules. I just think that clean is better now. Now I want to go to a serious subject. You guys filleted Chuck Schumer today, but not as bad as John Kennedy. He was asked by Dana and Bill this morning about Chuck Schumer's explanation of why DHS is shut down. Here is what Senator Kennedy said, cut number 4.
He's lying. He's lying like fish swim.
Now, Michael Duncan, is that how senators talk about senators usually?
That's how John Kennedy talks. And, he has a zinger for everyone, which I appreciate. And I think he's cut to the heart of the matter here. I don't know that Chuck Schumer knows what Chuck Schumer's doing anymore. And this goes back a ways, Hugh. We've been talking about it for a year on the Ruthless Variety program. Back in the initial funding, the budget, a year ago in this time, he was holding out for something, and eventually he concedes, and the left side of his party goes crazy, right? And he doesn't know how to contain the energy on the left because the entire party's captured by the left-wing lunatics. And so then what does he do? He goes and he shuts down the government, ostensibly for Obamacare subsidies, right? Last fall. Holds it longest government shutdown in American history, goes right up through that Virginia election, if you recall, and then it sort of peters out for no reason exactly. They didn't get what they wanted, and now he shut down the government again on DHS to provide the left flank what they want. It doesn't inspire a lot of confidence in the future of his leadership.
Do you think he's a zombie leader? In other words, he's moving forward, he's acting like a leader, but it's really over. He's dead.
Yeah, I tend to agree with the reporting we saw in the Wall Street Journal last weekend from Siobhan Hughes and Eliza Collins, who are well-sourced when it comes to Democratic leadership and Democrats in the United States Senate. You may recall Siobhan Hughes was also on the byline for a lot of that early Biden reporting about, does he have it anymore? Is he going to have to step aside for Kamala Harris? And she got lambasted by the left-wing media, but she had the story first. So I trust that they're very well-sourced in this case. And it seems like Chris Murphy is on the rise in the Democratic Conference in the United States Senate, trying to start this so-called fight club. We don't talk about fight club, but we meet at French restaurants in Georgetown and talk about how we need a new leader in the Democratic Conference.
French toast. It was a good segment. It was a really good show today. Now I have an appeal to make to the fellas. How many of you live in Virginia?
3 of us.
All right. Those 3. Oh, that's right. Smug's in North Carolina. It's a nightmare if this initiative passes. Are you guys going to throw in and get the minions to go to work to vote no on this initiative before, I think, April 21st? We've got to defeat that. It's suicide for Virginia to go from a 6-5 delegation to a 10-1. They'll never get anything again from a Republican Congress if they do this.
Well, I think you're absolutely right, Hugh, and I'm sure we're going to have more people on to discuss this redistricting fight in Virginia. We did cover it earlier on the program where we played some of the ads from this so-called, Virginians for Fair Elections group that the Democrats stood up when they're showing ads of Barack Obama talking about how they need to gerrymander the state. It's offensive. And I think on the airwaves, they're leading 17-1 in spending. So they're up, Republicans are up against it in this fight. But there's a lot of whispers among Democrats in the state that this isn't exactly a done deal. So Republicans in state need to run through the finish line on this thing.
Well, it's really stupid. Don't you agree as a matter of just doing well by your state? You don't want to go from a 6-5 delegation, which is needed by both parties, to a 10-1 delegation, which basically doesn't exist for the Republicans anymore. Like being California. Nobody cares about California anymore.
Well, and the other thing, Hugh, is if you watch any of the ads, it doesn't really pass the sniff test, right? They're like, we need to redistrict the state 10-1 for Democrats to restore fairness. It's Orwellian. It doesn't make any sense. So for your average citizen who watches these ads, they're like, what the heck is this?
Okay, I haven't seen the ads yet, but I will watch them with interest. Michael Duncan, proud IU alum and supporter of Sarah Lawrence and Bryn Mawr, thank you for joining me today. Don't miss the Ruthless podcast today. It's pretty doggone funny. Food for the Poor has been feeding clean water and good basic food to the poorest of the poor in the Caribbean and Central America for 70 years. And they have the lowest overhead, and it's a Christian organization. It's a not-for-profit organization. They work through local partners. They are trustworthy. They are reliable. This is Lent. Every Lent, I ask my audience, and thousands of you have already sent in $50. Some have sent in $500. Some have sent in $10. Whatever you can do. Yesterday, Larry Elder had a wonderful person send in $10,000. I am glad for Larry. I am glad for everyone. I'm glad for the kids in Central America. Food for the Poor does what they promised to do. They steward your resources very well. So if your Lent has not been a good one, like my priest on Sunday said, have you had a bad Lent? I've had a lousy Lent. Yeah, no, my Lent's okay. I've been kind of doing the stuff I said I would do and mentally. But he said, I've had a lousy Lent. Doesn't matter. You can still have a good Lent. And that's true. Food for the Poor is a great way to have a great Lent. Call 855-359-4673 and tell them how much you want to give. You can give $1. You can give $1 million. 855-359-4763. And it does not matter if it's $1. It really does not matter. 855-359-4673. Our suggested donation, which is tax deductible, is $50. Takes care of 2 children, clean water for a year. You can call that number, 855-359-4673. You can text my name, Hewitt, to 51555, or you can go to the top of hughhewitt.com and find the banner that says Give Living Water. And then when you do that, you hit that banner, completely secure. It's the easiest way to give. It's the best way to give, I think, because immediately they send you a receipt when it goes that way. Please join us in supporting Food for the Poor. They sponsor this every year. I say yes every year because I think it's the perfect way to remember that we are in Lent for Christians. And if you're not a Christian, it's still a very good organization to take care of the lost of the least with. It's a mitzvah if you're Jewish, all right? Generosity to the poor. Let me also tell you, I'm in the Relief Factor studio. There's my Relief Factor bag. I'm dog sitting this week. The kids left me Ralphie the Westie. And Ralphie the Westie is a challenge because he is of his own mind. You ever tried to run with a Westie? Ever tried to trundle with a Westie? It's not really running or trundling. It's about 10 steps and stop. It's an unusual gait. An unusual gait usually means some minor aches and pains. Not yet, because I take my Relief Factor. If you're watching on the Salem News Channel, you see me doing it right now. It is that simple. It is that quick. 4 pills. Now, the starter pack is 3-week supply. You take it 3 times a day for the first week, 2 times a day for each day of the second week. Excuse me. Whew, that's the difference of having a dog. And 1 time a week for the last week. And then you'll feel great. You'll get a 3-week starter pack for $19.95, less than $1 a day. Give it a try. ReliefFactor.com or call 1-800-4 and the word relief. Ask for the starter pack, the 3-week supply, because they lose money on every first order. $19.95. 1-800-4 and the word relief, or go to ReliefFactor.com. Now I want to go back to something that Chris Murphy said yesterday on MS Now to Chris Hayes, cut number 8.
The negotiation didn't have a path to citizenship. It was entirely on their terms in order to get Ukraine funding, right?
Well, I mean, Chris, that's been a failed play for 20 years. So you are right that has been the Democratic strategy for 30 years, maybe. And it has failed to deliver for the people we care about most, the undocumented Americans that are in this country.
People we care about the most. Let's play it again so you hear it correctly. Cut number 8.
The negotiation didn't have a path to citizenship. It was entirely on their terms in order to get Ukraine funding, right?
Well, I mean, Chris, that's been a failed play for 20 years. So you are right that has been the Democratic strategy for 30 years, maybe. And it has failed to deliver for the people we care about most, the undocumented Americans that are in this country.
The people we care about the most. Now, a 18-year-old co-ed who went to Loyola University was murdered this week by an undocumented alien who'd been twice in custody. Not clear yet whether Chicago authorities are going to honor the detainer for the murderer. But I care about the 18-year-old's family more than I care about the killer. And I hope he is turned over to ICE when he's released on bail, if he's released on bail, or whenever his other than a life sentence finishes. David Drucker is in the house. You can follow him on X at David M. Drucker. He's chief political correspondent for the Dispatch. David, what are the politics of the war with Iran, which is going very, very well in the war part? I'm not sure if the media is covering it, though. Like, we're winning, which we are.
Yes, Hugh, I don't think much has changed, right? I think Republicans are largely supportive. I mean, pretty overwhelmingly supportive. Independents are on the negative side. Democrats are obviously overwhelmingly against. I think part of the issue is the administration keeps shifting its objectives, and there could be multiple objectives, but they're all being sort of described as this is the objective today, this is another objective tomorrow. I'm not trying to be critical here, but to explain, I think, why there isn't broader support for the progress of the war, because nobody really knows what to make of the progress because they don't know what it's supposed to mean. And remember, the president launched this war without preparing the American public or building a case. It doesn't mean there isn't a case. You and I have discussed the fact that there's a really good case for it. But when you don't prepare the public and begin to sell and explain to the public why you might do this and what the case is, I think it's hard to expect people to jump on board, particularly when they don't quite know what victory looks like, even if, as is very clear, we're winning militarily from day to day.
Now, I watch every CENTCOM release, every IDF release, every statement by the president, Secretary Rubio, Secretary Hegseth, the admiral, the general. I watch it all. I think the objectives are pretty clear. Destroy the nuclear weapons program, get the enriched uranium out of Iran, destroy their ability to make war on their neighbors, and degrade their repressive apparatus, though not necessarily regime change, and of course now open the Strait of Hormuz so that people can pass through. 5 objectives. I think they've achieved 3 out of 5 already. The admiral said yesterday we sunk 140 Iranian ships. Do you see public opinion changing the more that it becomes clear? I don't think the media is helping. They're not doing the patriotic thing. I mean, I really don't think they're being patriotic. But in the end, it will be the results that speak for themselves. Do you think the public opinion will change if they are successful in achieving those 5 goals?
Possible, but possibly not. I think time will tell, and we're just going to have to see. I mean, I think part of the issue is you yourself there very concisely and clearly and in simple terms laid out 5 key objectives, right? But it's not how it's being communicated in a unified way from the administration, and particularly from the president, who has the bully pulpit, and a unique one at that, given who he is and how he likes to communicate. And look, I mean, I've been as critical as anyone over the years about media bias, particularly with Republican administrations. But I think, the media is, just trying to ask a lot of tough questions. I mean, even the, so-called MAGA-aligned in the tank press was asking questions early on of Secretary Hegseth that he found offensive and didn't like answering. And, I think that's just the sort of thing that happens in war. I think the patriotic thing is if you've got a scoop that could hurt the military objective and put American lives in danger, you hold the news. But I think it's plenty patriotic to ask a lot of hard questions. And again, I think a lot of this could have been solved if the president would have made a case for the war leading up to the war. And if he was as concise and consistent as you just were with the objectives.
Well, what I think is patriotic is to ask tough questions about how long will it be for the Strait of Hormuz to be open and how difficult will it be. But also, if there was a box on every landing page that listed 9,000 military strikes, 140 ships sunk, just the statistics of the war, I think that would be a fine way to go. Now, David, the next question is the Democrats. I have a column in Fox News today. President Trump has returned the GOP to the party of defense and deterrence, and the Democrats are pacifists. They're just pacifists. I don't think they'll ever fight a war again. And I don't think they're going to lose that. What do you think?
I mean, ever again? I don't want to say anything ever again, right? I mean, how many Republicans, or let's just put it this way, how many of the sort of populist right were convinced that President Trump was going to be the one president that they could take to the bank would never launch a war against Iran? Never mind the case for it, which you and I have discussed repeatedly. They were convinced, here's the one guy that wasn't going to be the so-called neocon warmonger, and now he's doing what previous presidents before him, Democrat and Republican, declined to do. So I don't like to say never again, and you just don't know what's going to happen. I don't know that the breadth of the Democratic Party are pacifists by any stretch. I mean, they're clearly, over the years, in my lifetime, have been more suspicious of projecting American power, more hesitant to project American power than the Republicans. We saw with President Joe Biden repeatedly, warning the Israelis and even talking about U.S. policy in terms of being concerned about escalation. Like somehow everybody else is allowed to escalate except for us. So, I'm not surprised to see Democrats opposing everything that President Trump does. And I just think that time will tell in terms of where these parties are positioned.
I was on Fox News this morning. John Fetterman was on before me. Fetterman said he would like to see the Iranian regime destroyed. So I don't want to say all Democrats. But I believe John Fetterman will be the only Democrat to vote for the supplemental of $200 billion. Am I wrong? Will anyone else vote for that on the Democratic side?
Who knows? Maybe one or two, probably not. But look, we've seen a lot of hesitancy over the past 10 to 20 years. Well, I should say post-Iraq, Iraq 2003, we've seen the political parties hesitant to support another president's war aims. I remember during the Obama administration, and of course this was a sleight of hand on his part, but he said, fine, I'll enforce my red line in Syria if Congress puts it up for a vote. And Republicans refused to support it. And by the way, Senator Tom Cotton and then Congressman Mike Pompeo famously wrote a joint op-ed saying, yeah, we oppose Obama on basically everything and don't trust them, but we need to enforce an American red line, so we should all vote for this as Republicans. And they were the minority. So, some of this is just par for the course, but I don't dispute your larger characterization of where Democrats have been historically on national security.
Yeah, and I think the branding on this is going to last a long time. They are not going to protect the country, and they are not going to protect our allies. They are pacifists. You don't agree with that, David? I understand that. That's not those are my words about the Democratic Party, not David M. Drucker's. But I thank you for joining me. Follow him on X at David M. Drucker. Read him in the Dispatch. Coming up after the break, Mike Rogers, the next senator from Michigan, joins me. But first, President Trump just spoke about who he is talking with in Iran. Cut number 10.
What makes you trust him? I don't trust anybody. I don't trust you. I mean, that's only because I know you. But if I didn't know you, I'd probably have more trust. But I don't trust anyone.
Why bother?
Why do you say that? Why do you say what makes you trust? Do you think I trust them? I don't trust them.
Then why bother talking to them?
Because they're going to make a deal. They're going to make a deal. They did something yesterday that was amazing, actually. They gave us a present, and the present arrived today. And it was a very big present worth a tremendous amount of money. And I'm not going to tell you what that present is, but it was a very significant prize. And they gave it to us, and they said they were going to give it. So that meant one thing to me: we're dealing with the right people.
Is that nuclear related?
No, it wasn't nuclear related. It was oil and gas related, and it was a very nice thing they did. But what it showed me is that we're dealing with the right people. Because, you don't know, because the leadership was killed, all gone. Khomeini, all gone, as the expression goes, the past supreme leader. And then the new supreme leader was racked up, at a minimum racked up pretty good, and everyone else was gone. And then many of the people in the third tier are gone, but we're dealing with a group of people that I think turn out, and the present, the gift they made to us was very significant, and they said they were going to do it, and it happened, and they're the only ones that could have done it. Jennifer?
Was it related to the Strait of Hormuz and the flow of...
Yeah, it was related to the flow and to the strait, yeah. It was.
Are you negotiating on who's going to control the strait from now on?
No, we'll have control of anything we want. Look, if we can end this without more lives being down, without knocking out $10 billion electric plants that are brand new and the apple of their eye, I'd like to be able to do that, But they can't have certain things. I mean, you know the things. I don't have to go over the list, but again, it starts with no nuclear weapons, and they've agreed to that. There won't be any nuclear weapons. They're not going to have, and they're not going to have enrichment, any of those things. But look, I hate to say that we're in a very good bargaining position, and I hate to say that they're defenseless because, until that last missile is fired, they have little power. But we are in about the best bargaining position. We're way ahead of schedule. And again, they have no Navy and they have no Air Force and they have no missile protection, and most of their missiles are gone. Most of their launchers we've killed. We've killed about 82% of their launchers. So even if they had a missile, they can't launch it. We've been very fast. We have the greatest military in the world. Nobody even comes close. We have the best military.
He's right. I wish someone would have asked him, do they have to give you the nuclear dust? He said that yesterday. I believe that is the key. Got to get the nuclear dust, the highly enriched uranium. I'm starting this hour with Mike Rogers, future senator from the great state of Michigan. And he's a former FBI agent, former member of the House, and for our present purposes, past chair of the House Intel Committee. Mike Rogers, you know the Iran file very, very well. What do you make of the war that we're in?
Well, it's probably long overdue. What I think a lot of people don't realize is between 23 and 25, they struck U.S. interests, including killed American service members over 219 times, I think the number was, somewhere around there. So they've been at this for a while. Back when I left being chairman, Hugh, there's three parts of a nuclear weapons program. One is enrichment, one is forming the enriched uranium to fit on top of a missile, and the last part is a missile program. They had all three of those. So the big debate back then was how long does it take them to put them all together? So when you think about how they've escalated contact and doing bad things in the Middle East, paid for Hamas to go into Israel, paid for Hezbollah to fire missiles into Israel, paid for the Houthis to attack commercial ships going through the straits, I think this is putting an end to war. And none of this is ever pleasant. None of it is ever easy. But degrading their capability to do all of those things, a nuclear weapon program, a ballistic missile program, a drone program, mining the straits, their capabilities, going after all of the factories that build missiles and drones and other things, that's a huge win for security in the region. And if that's the one thing that we get done, which was the president's original stated intent, that's a good day for security in the world.
Now, when you were running Intel and when you were at the Bureau, you also dealt with sleeper cells and the problem we have in the United States. Can you believe the DHS is shuttered at this period of time because Democrats don't want to fund ICE, even though ICE is funded?
Yeah, and I have a hard time reconciling the fact that they're basically shilling for illegal immigrants who are criminals over U.S. citizen, tax-paying citizens whose safety may be in peril. I don't understand how they could pick a fight like this and look themselves in the mirror, number one. Number two, they shouldn't be paid. If they're going to make use pay as a weapon, guess what? You ought to be hurt by that thing too. You shouldn't be paid if you're a member of Congress and the Senate and not funding these programs, especially for TSA agents. They've lost over 400 agents. They can't make it. Remember, these folks aren't highly paid. And so they're having a hard time paying their bills at the end of the month. They had to go find other work. So now we're going to be down another 500 or 400 and some TSA agents. Some of them were sleeping in their cars, Hugh, because they couldn't afford a gas, go back and forth, but they were trying to do the right thing and show up for work. Others were giving plasma to get money to show up for work. This is crazy. It's dangerous. It tells you how radical I think the left has become. I mean, they even voted last week not to deport illegal immigrants who attack and kick and beat law enforcement dogs. I mean, this is how I think the left has really lost their mind.
Let me play for you Senator Chris Murphy, who will be your colleague in a year, on MS Now last night with Chris Hayes, cut number 8.
The negotiation didn't have a path to citizenship. It was entirely on their terms in order to get Ukraine funding, right?
Well, I mean, Chris, that's been a failed play for 20 years. So you are right that has been the Democratic strategy for 30 years, maybe. And it has failed to deliver for the people we care about most, the undocumented Americans that are in this country.
All right, so Mike Rogers, the people we care about the most, the undocumented people who are in this country. Are you going to use that in your ad? I know you're not running against Chris Murphy, but
he has endorsed one of my opponents for sure, and I think all of this is fair game. When AOC was in the hallway and they filmed a clip of her saying, "Hey, we have to hurt lower and middle class people the most in order to get where we want to go. Now you have Chris Murphy saying we care more about undocumented workers or illegal immigrants here in this country than we do citizens who have been here and paying taxes and fighting the good fight on a free market economy. Boy, again, all of this, I think, is going to be fair game. And what we have to remember right now, they have one card, hate on Trump and hate everything Trump does. But, we're going to remind people, remember what happened in that 4 years, 50% increase in government spending, 9% inflation rates where you really did have to decide between gasoline and food. The fact that they have raised the national debt so much so fast that now the interest payment is bigger than the Department of Defense. All of that to me is fair game. And we're going to have to remind Americans, do you want to go back to that? They're still talking about putting men in girls' locker rooms. They're still talking about raising your taxes. Now they're even talking about if you own property over $750,000 and live in New York, guess what? The government gets to take the rest of it. I mean, it is the same old Democrats, only worse. And now we've just got to make the case to Michiganders here at home.
Now, your website is rogersforsenate.com, ROGERS, no D, ROGERS for Senate.com. Tell me about the race. You've got an open field. You're the Republican nominee. They're having a brawl on the Democrat side, which you must be enjoying. How's that going?
We get some popcorn together and we enjoy the show as much as we can when we're not out working to tell people what we're going to do positively for the state. This is a huge opportunity in Michigan, and I hope your listeners and viewers understand how important that is. We're beating head to head all three of the Democrats who are vying for their Democrat nomination. And it's springtime in Michigan. That's huge for us, gives us a huge advantage. And they're going to fight that fight, Hugh, all the way till August. And so, and they just keep going more left. Matter of fact, Abdul El Sayed just came out and said, well, it's okay that the guy attacked the temple here, the Jewish temple here, because there was a war going on. I mean, it's just unbelievable how left they're going, endorsed by Bernie Sanders, of course. And same with the other two. They just can't wait to get more one left of each other. In just the wrong direction for working people. So we're going to let them point out why they're not right for Michigan, and we're going to run around the state and tell people why we are right for Michigan. And we're pretty excited about that. And we've started early. We're out there. We're going to hit doors next month. We actually started some even this last weekend, just to test our stretch our muscles a little bit. We're going to be on the ground talking to real voters, talking about real problems, talking about real solutions all the way through November. And they're just hacking each other up here between now and August. So if there's a race
Mike Rogers,
you can invest, this would be it.
I tell everyone, a $10 contribution matters. If we win Michigan, we're not going to lose the Senate. A $10, a $20, a $25 are you getting those? Because small donors direct to rogersforsenate.com. Don't give it to a PAC. Give it to Mike. Rogers, ROGERS, for Senate.com. Explain to people why it matters, small donors.
Yeah, because volume matters. So if you get 100,000 people and everybody gives that $10, $25, $50, or even, they're going to get to 50 and they do it over a couple of months, massively important. It infuses cash. Why those dollars are called hard dollars is because they're hard to get. And that's what a candidate control our message on TV. PACs are great for what they are, but we don't control that message. We control this message. And we're talking about things that matter to people here in Michigan, and we target it. So that $10 helps us get on TV. That $10 helps us put a field person in the UP, the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, on the Canadian border up there, to work and go door to door and organize voters. And that's why every one of those contributions matters for us. It allows us
Mike
to
Rogers,
get
I didn't know this for the longest time till Vice President Vance actually explained it to me. I did not know that you, with hard dollars, are entitled to buy the lowest rate on the rate card for TV or radio, but that PACs have to pay an exorbitant amount. So a hard dollar contribution to Mike Rogers is like 5 times as powerful as a contribution to a PAC.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So not only does early money matter, the earlier we reserve, so we get a candidate rate, which means it's reduced, and we get a reduced rate because we buy it earlier. That's why sending money in early to the campaign has such a powerful impact. It is a multiple of every dollar that you give. And again, we get to control that message, which is really, really important in a congested kind of state like Michigan. We have 4 media markets. So this is going to be important. And the more we can buy and more our message gets out, the closer we're going to get to victory on November 6th. So that $10 is really like $100. It's like $80. It's depending on when you give it. And so please don't think for 1 minute those smaller donations don't mean something. As a matter of fact, they mean the world. And it's a huge investment in the country. This is not just, yes, this is the Michigan seat, but this is for the country. We win Michigan. The Democrats cannot take back the Senate. Really important.
That bottom line, and I want to point one more thing out. When you come back next time, let's talk about Ann Arbor. I lived there for 3 years. I want to know how you're going to attack Ann Arbor because there are votes there. They're pretty hard to find, but there are votes there. Mike Rogers, always good to see you, Congressman. Cannot wait to have you back in the United States Senate. Mike Rogers, you can help him out at rogersforsenate.com, ROGERS for Senate.com. Thank you, Mike. I'm going to take some calls here on one question. Do you think President Trump has been clear about the objectives of the war? I do. Some people don't. I think he says them over and over and over again. Sometimes he doesn't give the full list, but he starts at least with the top. My phone number is 1-800-520-1234. 1-800-520-1234. While you are calling, and that number is 1-800-520-1234. I'll do 2 segments of calls. I don't do many calls. Usually interview people. Callers can be entertaining, but this is an interesting question. Are you getting the message of what the war's objectives are? 1-800-520-1234. Here is the president talking, I believe, with Ed O'Keefe earlier, like minutes ago, in the Oval, cut number 10.
What makes you trust them? I don't trust anybody. I don't trust you. I mean, that's only because I know you. But if I didn't know you, I'd probably have more trust. But I don't trust anyone.
Why bother?
Why do you say that? Why do you say what makes you trust? Do you think I trust them? I don't trust them.
Then why bother talking to them?
Because they're going to make a deal. They're going to make a deal. They did something yesterday that was amazing, actually. They gave us a present, and the present arrived today. And it was a very big present worth a tremendous amount of money. And I'm not going to tell you what that present is, but it was a very significant prize. And they gave it to us, and they said they were going to give it. So that meant one thing to me: we're dealing with the right people.
Is that nuclear related?
No, it wasn't nuclear related. It was oil and gas related. And it was a very nice thing they did. But what it showed me is that we're dealing with the right people. Because, you don't know, because the leadership was killed, all gone. Khomeini, all gone. As the expression goes, the past supreme leader. And then the new supreme leader was racked up, at a minimum racked up pretty good. And everyone else was gone. And then many of the people in the third tier are gone. But we're dealing with a group of people that I think turn out. And the present, the gift they made to us was very significant. And they said they were going to do it, and it happened. And they're the only ones that could have done it. Jennifer?
Was it related to the Strait
No,
of
that's
Hormuz
I want to know if you think the president has been clear on his war aims. Larry in Cerritos, California. Hello, Larry.
Hi, Hugh. Love your show. Been listening to you for many, many years, even before you went back to Washington.
Thank you.
So to me, you would either have to be just stupid, purposefully ignorant, or a Democrat or someone in the media to think that the president hasn't been clear. He's been clear. He's stated the same or similar things for the last 30-some years. So to me, it's unquestionable that you are purposely stupid if you can't see that the objectives have been clearly stated.
Well, why do you think, David Drucker's a smart guy. Why do you think he thinks the president hasn't been clear?
I think that a lot of that is just the Trump derangement syndrome. There's so many people who can't stand Donald Trump to be right or to be correct, to have something go down in history as being something he did good. They hate him more than they want the truth. I heard, not Hugh Hewitt, sorry, Dennis Prager one time say that the left does not hold truth as a value. They hold winning. And to go along with that, as long as they can defeat Donald Trump in one little thing or in a lot, they will say the opposite of what Trump is saying, in my opinion.
Well, I think you're right. And I also think you're right that he's laid it out. And you have to really, really willfully not hear what he's saying or simply disregard it. Thank you, Larry. Let me talk to Alfred in Brandywine, Maryland, a Marylander. Hello.
Hi, Hugh. How you doing?
Good.
I think that Trump has been very clear about his objectives. I think the confusion that people have is the difference between tactics and strategy. We've been at war with these people for 47 years. They have killed Americans. They want to build a nuclear weapon. There is no reason why you would enrich uranium to that level if you weren't intending to use it for something disastrous. The difference is tactics versus strategy. We're not sure whether he wants to bomb the nuclear facilities. Does he want to take out the power plants? Does he want to straighten out the Strait of Hormuz? These are tactical issues. What do you do in the war today? What do you do tomorrow? But the strategic objective that we have been at war with these people for 47 years, and they are cowards. They don't fight their own fight. They fund other people to fight their wars for them. There's no dealing with these people. You got to get rid of them. The question is, what do you do first? Do you go for the nuclear? Do you go for the power plants? Do you go for the Straits of Hormuz? Do you go for the leadership? And the people who are against them are against them because they got an advanced case, a terminal condition called Trump derangement syndrome.
Well, I agree with that. A lot of this, Democrats generally, and a lot of independents. Thank you, my friend. I want to recommend a book for anyone who wants to understand the regime that we're dealing with. It came out last year. It's called Iran's Grand Strategy, A Political History. It's by Vali Nasser, N-A-S-R. So it's Vali, V-A-L-I, Nasser, N-A-S-R. And it's called Iran's Grand Strategy. I listened to it over the last 2 days. Comprehensive review of the last 45 years, actually 47 years, because it begins with Khomeini's return and brings us right up to last summer. He wrote the book just in time for right now. It's fabulous. Let me talk in Austin, Texas with Kevin. Hello, Kevin.
Hi, Hugh. So I've got 6 older brothers, and it's a tactic that they use. They're being obstinately obtuse or intentionally obtuse. Like you didn't explain what you said, so you'd have to explain it over and over again. It's a tactic.
Yep. Yeah. Well, why? This is life and death. This is a pivot point in history. If we can reduce Iran to a non-player, we can finally pivot to the Pacific and deal with China.
Yeah, they do it on purpose to try to muddy the waters and just frustrate the president. I mean, it's a tactic, and it's because they don't want to help. They're more interested in what the next election is going to be than what's right for the country.
I think you're right. I think they're pacifists. Thank you, friend. Sean, Jeff City, Missouri. Hi, Sean.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm just fine, other than a few things, out there in the world today. It's kind of frightening where we're at.
Now, do you think the president's been clear?
Oh, yes, very clear. But also, it's just crazy how up is down and left is right.
Only for the left.
I know. It's crazy.
I don't think I'm up is down or left is right. I think I tell you the truth, and I give you the facts, and I play you the president talking, and I don't think it's that hard to get this stuff down. We're trying to take out one of the worst regime on the planet. Not the most dangerous, that's China, but the most evil, that's this.
You're correct, Hugh. I understand that. But there was a movie that came out, I'd say about 10 years ago. It was called Idiocracy.
Oh,
and I talked to Sean Hannity, and I talked to Rush Limbaugh. And they were like, no, I don't think we're there yet.
I think we're close. Well said. Idiocracy is very funny. Got to go to break. More calls on the other side. More of your calls coming up. Byron York after the break. Let me remind you, though, I do have a sponsor named Consumer Cellular. They are the most efficient cell phone company out there. You got to give them a call. You got to save money. This is tight times. You cannot burn up money on your cell phone bill. Call 1-800-411-4454. 1-800-411-4454. I repeat again, 1-800-411-4454. Or go to consumercellular.com/Hugh. Now, my code is Hugh. You always want to remember that. You'll talk to a U.S.-based customer representative. Takes about 20 minutes to switch. You may want to get your phone bill out, find out how much you're paying for your cell phone data right now, and be able to, price and compare. But remember, my code is Hugh. You get your second month free if you make this switch. But I always make a specific appeal to people who are 50 years and older. Consumer Cellular wants your business. So they make it very hard for those of you who love unlimited data not to say yes. They give you 2 lines, you and your spouse, you and your partner, you and your best friend, 2 phone numbers, 2 lines, keep your number, keep your data, 2 lines for $60 a month, unlimited data. Really impossible to beat that. And they got other rates too. If you use very little data, you just need a phone for emergencies. You're a solitary hermit, and you need 5 gigs of data just in case you have to, check in on a weather report, or 10 gigs of data, you're a normal person. But the unlimited data people like me, consumercellular.com/Hugh or 1-800-411-4454. Don't forget my code is Hugh. Let's talk with Anna in North Georgia. Anna, is the president making clear the war's objectives?
Direct communication style. He tells us what's going on, and if he has to be confrontational, he will be. But he's just a strong, focused man. He's got great advisors. He's done so much with immigration and the border policy, and his brokering in Middle East has been very effective. He's just got it all. Here's what breaks my heart. If we could just have the other side, even some of our own, just focus and rethink their strategy, what kind of a wonderful thing would that be?
Focus on the fact we're dealing with an evilest regime in the world and we want to beat them. Focus on that, freeing the people of Iran. Focus on getting rid of the cancer in the Middle East. That would make people a little bit less insane. Anna, thank you. Don, L.A. Hello, Don.
Oh, doing great out here in Tehran, Angeles.
Huh.
I think he's been. I mean, how could you be? What's more clear than unconditional surrender? I mean, duh, even a Democrat. That's from FDR. That's from World War II. How did the Democrats not get that? It would be comical. Ro Khanna, I saw him on a show the other day saying, oh, well, the dead one, Khamenei, said he didn't want to make nuclear weapons. It's like, oh, sure. It's like.
Well, as Guy Benson said I quoted Guy, I'll play this next hour. I quoted Guy today when I was on America's Newsroom with Dana Perino. And Guy on Special Report last night had the best line. The Iranians lie when they breathe. And by that he means the regime. So unconditional surrender has got to be enumerated. But he's done that. He's done it repeatedly. And I think you have to be deaf not to hear it. Thank you, Don. Tom in Atlanta. You get the last call of the day, Tom. Byron York coming up. What do you think? President been clear?
Yeah, and I won't talk about the motives of the left except to say that none is so blind as those who refuse to see, and none is so deaf as those who refuse to hear. But let me add, if I can, please. Sir, you have one of the best voices and the best and calm reasoning voices on the radio, on the air. And I would really ask you, please, can you come up with, before the 4th of July, why you love America? Just give us that 2 minutes. I know you're probably on it.
I will tell you that. I love freedom. I love the fact that for 250 years, any citizen of this country can decide that tomorrow that they're going to leave where they are and move to another place and change their life. They can choose what they want to read, when they want to read it. They can listen to whomever they want to listen to. They can vote for whomever they want to vote for, provided they are registered legally. They can live the life that they want. Opportunity is endless because freedom is boundless. I love America for a lot of reasons. Probably the Declaration and the Constitution are the two biggest. But thank you, my friend. I also love the free exercise of religion. But I can do 2 minutes on that at some point. Thank you for the request. Byron York is the chief political correspondent for the Washington Examiner, Fox News correspondent as well, contributor. Byron, I just had a caller ask me, rather unexpectedly, in this, as we approach our 250th birthday, why do I love America? I came up with 2 minutes, so I'm going to do it to you. Why do you love America?
You came up with 2 full minutes doing that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Speech and debate in high school, Byron. A minute extemp, you know.
I love America because I was born here, because it has offered me the opportunity to live the life that I would want to live, just as it's offered other people the opportunity to live the lives that they want to live. I love America because my family has been here for a long, long time, going back lots and lots of generations. I love America because it has a political structure that has survived for longer than any other similar political structure that has created a representational democracy that actually works, regardless of how many complaints you get about it.
We are very close. I began by saying, I love the fact that I can leave tomorrow and go anywhere in the country I want to go without anyone's permission. I can quit a job and take a job. I can move around the country freely. My family can thrive and do whatever they want. I love freedom, and I just can't imagine being an Iranian getting shot down in the street for marching. I mean, it's really remarkable we get to live here. So it's a good question. Good question. Yeah. So, Byron, I've also been asking, do you think the president has been clear in the objectives of this war?
You know, I actually wrote about this. We see a lot of polls where the pollster says, has the president been clear in explaining the goals of the purpose and goals of the war? And you see majorities. I've seen a lot of numbers around 65% of the people say no. So what does that mean? Well, first of all, the president was not clear at all before he did it. As a matter of fact, the first time he actually starts laying out the purpose of what he's done is in that video that he releases at like 2 a.m. on the morning of the attack itself.
Yep.
So he didn't do a buildup. He didn't explain it going in. And so I think that a lot of people still sort of have that feeling. Now, since then, the administration, they've kind of gone over the map a little bit, but they've basically focused on eliminating Iran's ballistic missile capabilities, eliminating their nuclear weapon capabilities, eliminating their ability to fund proxies and wreak havoc outside their borders. So this has kind of become the explanation that has been out there. And yet a number of people either haven't gotten it or they've heard it and they don't find it entirely satisfactory. I'm not sure
That's
why.
what I think it is. I don't think that they haven't heard it. They're not listening. I would add, by the way, he always said, we got to get the nuclear dust. And that means the enriched uranium. And to me, it's not a success unless they get the nuclear dust, even if they're bouncing the rubble, even if there's nothing left. And there's not going to be much left by the end of that. I don't think the Strait of Hormuz is that difficult of a military problem because I've talked to admirals and they tell me it's not. What do you think?
I think it's a fairly big military problem. We're certainly not ready to solve it yet. And you don't know what Iran is going to do yet. I mean, how are they going to pull the trigger? We've talked theoretically about any small water drone can do this. Any really small group can take out $1 billion freighter. And the president has said this a lot of times, that if you own $1 billion freighter right now, you're thinking, we'll wait a while. We can hang out for a while. We don't want to be the first one through this. So what Iran is ready to do has not been tested right
Have you followed that the A-10 Warthogs, which is the infantryman's friend, have been destroying the proxies of Iran in Iraq? They have a Hezbollah, sort of Hezbollah, it's got 3 letters, PFM or something like that, FMP, that is all over Iraq, and they're in camps, and the Warthogs are just strafing them. It's like a party for the Warthog people. Have you been following that? Because I think that's underreported.
I've been following it a little bit. I mean, you're right about the party part, because the Warthog is a craft that has a lot of fans, and yet always seems to have people who think it's too old and needs to be discontinued and gotten rid of, and let's move on. And then it turns out to be extremely valuable in whatever the next conflict is.
Yeah,
so
well
we're seeing
said.
it now. It's basically a cannon with wings, a Gatling gun.
Yes,
it's amazing that it's a Gatling gun, because you think of the Gatling gun in the Civil War, but that's basically what it is. 700 rounds a second, some unbelievable amount of firepower in that airplane.
And they've got this proxy organization, again, 3 letters, I think it's PMF, but I can't remember for sure. I do know when I see it that they're Hezbollah in Iraq, and we're methodically destroying those. So I really do think he's doing a number on Iran, and there's not going to be much left. Now, the bad news, they've promoted the hardest of the hardliner to the Larijani job, a guy who was a veteran of the Iran-Iraq War, 80 to 88, hard-bitten, walk through the minefield type of guy. They're not really sending forward the envoys of peace and love. I'm not an optimist about negotiations for 3 or 4 weeks, and it might be a couple of months. Are you an optimist?
No, I'm not. I mean, you hear the president talk about the Venezuela model, and basically what he's saying is if we can just find the right person to deal with, then we can really go forward. We don't have to completely eliminate this regime. We can go forward with people who will work with us and that will change Iran in the future. That's the Venezuela model. Now, I'm not an expert on these things, but I think there's a difference between dealing with kleptocrats and dealing with martyrs,
Exactly.
And in Iran, you're dealing with people who sort of perfected the suicide attack.
There's a professor up at Johns Hopkins.
Really different thing.
There's a guy up at Johns Hopkins, Byron, by the name of Ali Nasser, N-A-S-R, who wrote a book last year called Iran's Grand Strategy, A Political History. And what Iran's grand strategy makes clear is they're fanatics. It's not about the money. That's a problem when you're negotiating with people. Byron York, always good to talk to you. Good off-the-cuff answer on freedom as well. Nadav Eyal is coming up all of next hour. One of Israel's finest analysts. He's at the Columbia School of International Affairs right now, but he's a chief foreign correspondent for Channel 13 in Israel. So you really want to talk. He's also on Dan Senor's Call Me Back podcast. Wonderful guy. Food for the poor. We need your money. The kids who don't have water or food in Guatemala and Haiti need your money. Whether it's $5 or $50 or $100, please go to the banner at the top of HughHewitt.com. I've told you about it for 4 weeks. I'm going to continue to tell you about it. Some of you remember every day. Oh, yes, I want to make that contribution. Some wonderful person sent Larry Elder $10,000 last night. Great. Thank you. Larry follows me on the Salem News Channel and most of these radio stations as well. But you can do the same thing. Or you can send $10. What matters is that you send something. Or call 855-359-4673, 855-359-4673, 855-359-4673, or go to the website, my website, HughHewitt.com. There's a blue banner at the top that says Give Living Water. You can contribute there. Let me tell you about my friends at BestHotGrill.com. They have the Cellular infrared grills that heat up in just 3 minutes of searing heat. They make the juiciest grilled food you've ever had. And right now, before you buy, you can try with a Cellular demo rental program. For only $47, you can use their infrared demo grill for 2 weekends and the weekend between in the comfort of your backyard. Test out its hot, fast performance and versatility with steak, chicken, fish, pork, veggies. Veggies? Yeah, I guess. Veggie, all the food that you enjoy. UPS picks it up, drops it off. They put it in a box for you. They make it very, very easy. Cellular always does. Then you'll receive a coupon for $47 off any new Cellular infrared grill. You really can't lose with this because you can always buy the hibachi. Everyone always needs a hibachi. But I have the big one on both coasts. The Cellular demo rental program will convince you why Cellular is truly the last grill you will ever buy. Learn more at besthotgrill.com, besthotgrill.com. And remember, I'm in the Relief Factor studio. Took it every day. It's a slow start to this week because I'm dog sitting, and that means the grand dog is not doing 4, 5, 6 miles with me. He's a Westie. He's pretty tired after a mile and a half. And nevertheless, I'm still taking my Relief Factor every day like I've been doing for 13 years. The only supplement I've taken for more than 20 years, and actually 23 years now. I took a supplement the first 2 years of the program. I didn't like it. But I've always loved Relief Factor. And I'm in the Relief Factor studio, and I want to recommend it to you with a personal testimony. It works. All you have to do is call 1-800, the number 4, and the word relief. Ask for the starter pack, which costs $19.95, less than $1 a day, a 3-week supply. $19.95. Do the math. 21 days, $19.95, less than $1 a day. Or go to their website at relieffactor.com, relieffactor.com. And then come back. Nadav Eyal is coming up next. We'll cover the war from the perspective of an Israeli journalist of the first rank. You've heard him on Dan Senor's Call Me Back. It's his second appearance here on the program. Been looking forward to this. Nadav Eyal was for a long time. I think he may still be the chief foreign affairs correspondent for Channel 13 in Israel, but he's at Columbia University School of International and Public Affairs for a while, so he's on the Upper West Side of New York. Nadav, are you still with Channel 13?
No. I'm writing only for Yediot Achronot and Ynet, a column once a week.
Okay, well, I want people to understand. You've got a great newsletter, and I want them to go. It's called Between Us. If they go find you on X at Nadav_Eyal, EYAL, they can sign up for it. Like I get it every single day, and I want people to be smart. So Nadav, first, general, 30,000 feet, your assessment of the war after 25 days.
Well, I think that Iran's military capabilities, have been degraded substantially. I know that the Israeli sources I'm speaking with are very happy with the results that the United States and Israel have had in attacking both the ballistic missile capabilities of Iran, its nuclear installations, but also the military apparatus of Iran. And what they're saying here is that when the Iranians wake up after this war, what they're going to discover is that they don't have any military industry left. They don't have military research facilities that they used to use in order to develop nuclear weapons. And they're not going to have a large chunk of whatever they thought they can use against their neighbors. Now, strategically speaking, and you know me, you read my newsletter, I never sugarcoat. I try to speak very clearly. It's absolutely the case that this war is refocused around the Strait of Hormuz and the need to open the Strait of Hormuz for global energy. And I think that the administration in Israel are very much focused at that.
Now, Nadav, my own personal view, and I've stated it, and I talked about it with Admiral Montgomery, is if that has to stay closed for 2 months while this regime crumbles, and it actually crumbles, that is well worth the cost to the world in higher energy prices. Do you agree with me? If the regime is actually ousted by the end of this, if it takes 2 months, would you mind?
Well, I wouldn't mind personally, but I am not an expert on global economy and, of course, on global energy. And here's the thing, the strait isn't really closed. It's closed to those tankers that are affiliated with the West, with the United States, with Europe. But the Iranians are still pumping oil there, about 1.3 to 1.5, 1.6 million barrels a day. And they're still exporting. They're controlling the strait. And this is an impossibility, even in terms of deterrence, for the United States and for other Gulf countries. This is the reason why Gulf countries are now pressuring the sides that are fighting this war not to allow Iran to get away with it, because that could be detrimental for their future in the region and for global economy.
I read that Wall Street Journal. In fact, I just played, or I will be playing after I talk with you, a piece that I did with Dana Perino today saying Crown Prince, MBS, and MBZ in the UAE They want to go over to the offense now because they want to make sure that Iran is on its knees, if not crushed, by the end of it. What is your definition of your minimal definition of success? Big success is regime change. What's the de minimis you think Israel has to get out of this?
Well, I think that what Israel needs to get out of this, it already got. It degraded the military capabilities of Iran. Of course, a regime change is what you would want to see to a certain degree, but this could take a long time. And the thing is that the person calling the shots is the commander-in-chief of the United States. It's the president. The president is making the decision. And if we listen to what the president has been telling us in the last 2 or 3 weeks, he has been very content with the military results. And we know because of the ultimatum and because of the announcement made by the president in postponing the implementation of the ultimatum, that the US wants to get a good agreement with Iran. Of course, if you get those hundreds of kilograms of enriched uranium out of Iran, that's a huge success. If you get some sort of limitations on their ballistic missile program, that's a big success. If they stop funding proxies across the region, that's marvelous. But if you're looking to some sort of a military aim, a military goal here, and I'm listening to what the president said at the beginning of the war and what the prime minister said, but mainly the president and the secretary of war here in the United States, what you're hearing is that it was mostly not about what the Iranians are going to agree to, but rather what you can take away from them in terms of their abilities. And these abilities have been substantially degraded. What will be the strategic situation after the war? That's a good question. And if the Iranians feel that they won this, that they survived this, that now they're off the hook, that's going to be a problem. But this administration is going to be here for the next 3 years. And according to the public statements by this administration, I don't think that they're going to allow Iran to procure nuclear weapons. And I'm saying this, again, I'm an outsider to this. I speak with Israeli sources, but this is what I'm hearing on the record from Washington, D.C.
And I agree with that. And I don't even think I think we can say the minimum level of success is that the enriched uranium has to be out of the country with instant verification, surprise verification visits everywhere, which the JCPOA did not provide for. Now, Nadav, you're one of those annoying people. I can't tell if you're 30 or you're 50. How old are you? Because I want to know how many wars you've covered.
I'm 47, and the first conflict that I covered was the Second Intifada that broke out, as people probably remember, in the year 2000, after the failed attempt in Camp David, led by President Clinton and Prime Minister Barack. So I was chief West Bank correspondent between 1997 to 1999. And then I covered the Lebanon war. But even before that, I even went into Lebanon during the time that Israel was occupying parts of Lebanon back in the 90s, in the late 90s. So I've been in
the second segment. I want to talk to you about Lebanon in the second segment. But my big question: you're an experienced guy covering war. In your 25 plus years of covering war, how does the last 25 days rank in terms of impressiveness, of interoperability, of militaries that are? I know that the U.S. and the Israelis have trained a little bit together, but I had no idea they could work this well together.
Yeah, this is amazing in terms of just the joint ability to work together. It's a new world in which the United States can work with an ally like Israel, and hundreds of airplanes can fly at once. People hear hundreds, maybe they sort of imagine thousands or more. There are no other countries in the world besides maybe Russia and China that can do what the United States and Israel did here together. Of course, the US could do this alone and would be much more powerful than any other country in the world, or all the countries combined. But here you have the sort of alliance that we've never seen. It's the first time in history that both armies are fighting together. And also, if you look at other wars, it's the first time that the US is making a stand as to the future strategically of the region. Iran has been supporting terror across the region for so many years, has been killing Americans since the 1980s in the region. It has become such a powerful regional power, a hegemon of sorts. And here the United States is definitely making a stand, and we will need to see what will be the results of this stand at the end of it. And one of my experiences as someone who's been covering wars is that you really need to wait and see this in retrospect in order to make a clear judgment. That's the truth. I know it's annoying, but we need to wait it through. There will be ups and downs in order to see the new strategic situation. I'll just give you one example. I know it's a long answer. Everybody's saying, oh, now the Iranians have used the Strait of Hormuz. They have proven that they can close the Strait of Hormuz. And technically that's true. But they have just thrown in their only asset, their main asset. They have used their final threat, strategically speaking. They can't do this again. They cannot do this again. And all of their neighbors know that they've been doing that.
And I do think they also showed us who they are. They showed the world who they are. When they fired at Diego Garcia, when they fired at everyone from Azerbaijan to Turkey, every one of the Gulf Arab states, I think 12 different countries they've attacked. So they've showed us who they are, and we don't ever have to ask them again. 30 seconds for this. Has Donald Trump exhausted his ability to surprise you?
Absolutely not. Never think that the president has exhausted his ability to surprise us. By the way, any president, but this president, of course, President Trump specifically, I remind people when they hear about the ultimatum and they say now it's been postponed, I look at the 82nd Airborne Division and its movements, right? Yep. I look at the deployment of the Marines. Yep.
I will be right back with Nadav Eyal. During the break, you might go find him on X and look up his Substack, which I'll have him tell us the exact address because it's free. You'll get his newsletter every day and you'll know what's going on in Israel. Still with Nadav Eyal. He is at the Columbia School of International Studies right now. He does a daily, and he writes for Ynet and another publication in Israel. He's on Dan Senor's Call Me Back all the time. That's where I first heard him. I get his Between Us newsletter every day, as do about 7,000 other people who are interested intensely in the Middle East. How do people sign up for that, Nadav?
They just can go on my X account or Twitter, or go on Substack and just look Between Us, Nadav Eyal, and they can sign up, and it's free. And it's already 8,000 and rising fast.
That is terrific, because it's very, very good. Now, I got two questions in 8 minutes. Hezbollah and how long Israel is going to have to stay. Are they going to occupy, 140 square miles between the Israeli border and the Litani River? Do they have to go in there and stay there for as long as it takes, and will they do that? And then secondly, I want to talk politics and Netanyahu. So tell me about Hezbollah and Lebanon first, and then we'll talk about Netanyahu and maybe a cocky election.
Yeah, so as to Lebanon and Hezbollah, here's the problem. It's a really simple problem. There is a UN Security Council decision from after Israel left Lebanon in the year 2000. And that UN Security Council decision says that there are no armed militias in Lebanon, and all of these militias need to be completely disarmed. Everyone who has a weapon needs to let go of that weapon, besides, of course, the police and the army. Lebanon has never lived up to that, and it's not because the Lebanese country, the state, doesn't want to do that, but because it's held captive by Hezbollah. Just in the last 2 years, Hezbollah got between $1 billion to $1.5 billion from a really poor country, a really big poor country called Iran. They've been supplying them with arms and with funds, and the majority of Lebanese do not want Hezbollah to again and again attack Israel. The United States and Israel began this operation against Iran. Nobody attacked Hezbollah. Hezbollah decided to join the war. Now, the problem there is that the Lebanese political system continues saying, we want them disarmed, but they can't do that because, you have this armed militia, extremely powerful, funded by Iran. It's all over the country. It represents parts of the minority, the Shia minority, Muslim Shia minority in Iran. How are you going to let go of them? And the Israelis are in a bit of a trap here. If they capture that territory that you're speaking about between their northern border and the Litani River, then what? What's going to happen then with Hezbollah? Hezbollah is going to say, I'm going to defend Lebanon. I'm going to free these territories that were taken by the Israelis. Now I have a legitimate cause as far as they're concerned. So even if you take that territory, at the end of the day, they're not going to just disappear. You need to basically occupy the entire country. Israel is not going to do that. Israel is not going to occupy the entire state of Lebanon. It's not going to happen. So you need to somehow leverage your force in order to have the Lebanese themselves dismantle Hezbollah. And that's a challenge. That's a challenge in the region. One of the ways to get to that is for Iran to be battered in this war.
Well, I hope that Americans give a lot of grace to the Israel and that the president doesn't beat Iran sufficiently before you've beaten Hezbollah out of southern Lebanon. Let me turn to politics. In 1900, when the Second Boer War looked like it had been won, the conservatives who were in charge of Great Britain called a snap election called the khaki election, and they won 400 plus seats. Poor Liberal Party got crushed below, like they had 180 seats. Do you expect Prime Minister Netanyahu to call early election at the conclusion of this war?
So first of all, I want to say, that this is the reason why it's such a joy to go on your show, because no one else will bring that example of history but you. And I think it's a very opportune, it's a very relevant example for our case here. Look, the prime minister can't call an early election because the election is already due by the end of October. Even if he does that, we're approaching April. That leaves us with July. Israeli elections are not held in July and August because basically, let's put it this way: everybody's in on the shore, on the seashore, or traveling abroad. Usually, no elections are held in July and August. That brings us to September. There are the holidays, the Jewish holidays, the Jewish New Year's in September. That brings us to October anyway. So even if he wants a snap election, it takes us to the end of June, beginning of July. It's difficult to see. Now, right now, he's not rising in the poll. Right now, the polls aren't giving the prime minister any bump as a result of this war. Don't ask me why. I don't know yet. We need to see how this plays out after the war. He's definitely getting credit for having a vision as to Iran and now trying to implement it. He's also getting a lot of criticism because of his alliance with the ultra-Orthodox and the feeling that nobody knows how this war will actually end as far as the Israelis are concerned. So the jury is still out. Usually you would want to see these reactions in the poll already during the war if you're the prime minister. He's not seeing this yet. And right now I need to say this again, I'm speaking always clearly about these issues. He's been losing every poll for the last 2 years. Almost every poll. There are right-wing channels affiliated more with the government that give him much more credit in those polls and are saying it's a tie. But basically, most polls are saying he's losing. Doesn't mean he's going to lose. I'm definitely not going to sit on your show and say, oh, Netanyahu, he's not going to win that election, because Netanyahu has won so many elections. He's proven as an excellent campaigner. But right now, he's not winning according to the polls.
All right, my very last question. I can't get enough news about the war because for some reason, very little time other than on the Fox News Network and the Salem News Channel is given over to coverage of the war. How much time does Israeli media spend on the war?
It's like 100% on the war. It's 80% on the war and another 20% on what's happening in Israel. We are having missile attacks. Sirens are being sounded. Now, the launching of missiles, ballistic missiles to Israel is about 10 a day. But Israel is a really small country, as your viewers and your listeners know. And because of that, the entire country sometimes needs to go into a bomb shelter or a safe room. And because of that, we're covering that. We're covering the damages. Everybody's discussing these issues. So this takes a large chunk during the day. But basically, it's live 24/7, push notification. You probably heard a few from my phone. I didn't silence it before the show. As we go through the day, because the war is everything. Look, this is probably my final point. People need to understand this. Iran has been waging a secret war not only against Israel, but against most Arab countries in the region for the last 50 years. They've been killing so many Israelis. But even more so, most of the people they've been killing are not Israelis or Americans. They're Arabs across the region. So this is supposed to be the war. I don't want to say that will end all wars, but it will at least change the strategic dynamics of the region. This is the hope in Israel today. Many people are tired because of the sirens, because of the damages, because it's been 3 years since, almost 3 years, 2.5 years since October 7th. But there is this desire to see a real change, a long-lasting change that will lead to peace agreements across the region, maybe with more Gulf countries and Saudi Arabia.
It's a genuine pivot point, and I appreciate your taking the time to give us the perspective. Nadav Eyal. Follow him on X. Sign up for his Between Us newsletter on Substack. It's free. You'll find it incredibly informative. He's fair. He's down the middle. I think he's a little bit center-left, and Amit's a little bit center-right, but they're both on Dan Senor's Call Me Back Insider, which I also recommend to you. Thank you, Nadav. I just watched some CENTCOM, Central Command, release video of we've hit 9,000 military targets. America, not Israel. They've done 7,000 to 8,000. Iran is getting pummeled. This is a point I made today on America's Newsroom with Dana Perino. Let's play that clip.
Joining us now is Fox News contributor Hugh Hewitt. Great to see you. Here's the Wall Street Journal on closed-door negotiations. Trump's shift Monday morning followed a series of closed-door discussions through Middle Eastern intermediaries that U.S. officials said gave them hope an agreement to settle the conflict was possible. I didn't have Pakistan as the one that would step in, but everybody seems to have a vested interest, Hugh.
Well, good morning, Dana. I read the same story. I thought it was interesting. Diplomats are going to do what diplomats do, which is meet and confer and hope that they can host a conference. Yeah. President Trump has been very consistent in saying the same thing again and again and again. No nuclear weapons program, turn over the nuclear dust. Well, he calls it the nuclear dust. That's the highly enriched uranium. No more missile program, anywhere, anytime inspections, the end of their offensive capability. Right below that story in the Journal was a more important one, I actually thought, which was the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia saying what John Fetterman told Bill. The Iranian regime's got to be destroyed. So the president can get there via military means or he can get there via negotiation. I think either way is fine with him. But Iran cannot be a threat to its neighbors or the region. And the other story that came out this morning, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps has promoted an old line, hard line, veteran, hard-bitten warfighter from the Iran-Iraq war from 1980 to 88 to be the new Larijani. So they might be talking nice to our diplomats, but they're promoting the hardest of the hardliners in Iran.
Which is, I guess, it fits a pattern with the Iranians, that's for sure. President Trump also talked about depleting Iran's nuclear capabilities.
Iran refused every opportunity to renounce its nuclear ambitions, and in recent months its own negotiators bragged to our representatives about having enough material to make nuclear weapons. Iran's missile capabilities were also growing so fast that it would soon have become virtually impossible to stop them. They want peace. They've agreed they will not have a nuclear weapon, et cetera, et cetera. But we'll see. You have to get it done.
With all of the concern about oil in the Strait of Hormuz, the story about the nuclear capabilities can sometimes get lost, Hugh.
And it's the most important story, Dana, as you know. I heard Guy Benson say last night on Special Report, the Iranians lie when they breathe. And that has been the fact in the case for 47 years. I don't believe a word they say until we've got every kilo of highly enriched uranium. I won't believe they've abandoned their program. And unless we have instant and surprise inspections anywhere in the country, which the JCPOA did not agree to in 2015, I won't trust them. And I don't think the president trusts them. And I know now the Gulf allies are going to join with Israel and the United States, it appears, given the Journal reporting, UAE and Saudi Arabia, in offensive operation. So what we're seeing is an extraordinary display of American military might. You've watched it before up close, and it's every time it gets exponentially more impressive. And we now control the skies. I think Admiral Cooper said yesterday we've sunk 140 Iranian vessels. They don't have a navy. They don't have an air force. So we're going to win this, whether it's at the negotiating table or militarily, until the rubble bounces. We're going to win this.
Can I ask you one last question? In the time we have left, I think it is remarkable that we just have no video or information of citizens and civilians inside Iran. And I know that's because the internet is shut down, but it just seemed like almost at the fourth week of this conflict, we don't know what's going on with the people inside.
I'm worried that the people who try and use VPNs, a special way to get video out, are instantly being hunted down and murdered because the Iranians are ruthless and they're killers. But we do see little tiny bits of the besieged hiding under highway overpasses because the allies are killing them methodically. And maybe Iran can be free at the end of this. Wouldn't that be the best result? But yes, we really have no idea how vicious they're being on the ground.
Hugh Hewitt, thank you so much. It's great to have you on America's News.
And that is keep in your prayers. I've been telling you, please give to Food for the Poor, because that actually delivers aid to the people in the islands of Guatemala, and the banner is at the top of HughHewitt.com. And I keep saying again and again, please give Food for the Poor. But keep in your prayers the people of Iran. They are wonderful, and they've always been wonderful. And I know so many Persian Americans, I can't count them, the executive assistant at the Nixon Library for many, many years, one among hundreds in Southern California that I've known and worked with. My boys played water polo. We'd go up and play Beverly Hills High School, and it'd be all the Persian boy kids in the water swimming like dolphins. And I just got to tell you, a wonderful community here in America, the expats. They will go back. They will help rebuild. But they've got to pry the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps out of there, whether it takes 150,000 bullets to do that, or they surrender. That regime will never be normal as long as those killers are in charge. Joined by humorist and media critic, that's what I call him, James Lilacs, as in jameslilacs.substack.com. James, I just asked Nadav Eyal 2 segments ago, longtime Israeli journalist, how much war coverage there is in Israel. And it's wall-to-wall, 100%, every station. In the United States, not so much. Are you surprised by how little we're kind of following the war?
I am, very much so. I remember my gold standard is the first Gulf War, where it was constant. It was 24/7, it seemed. There was always breaking gongs and breaking news and flags fluttering across the screen. And it seemed as if it occupied the entirety of the American imagination. The Second Gulf War, same thing pretty much, but this just has oddly receded to a series of headlines that are maybe 2 or 3 times down when you go to your Google News piece, because first we've got Taylor Swift announces new tour, and then below that, Iranian IRCG headquartered bombed into atoms for the 17th consecutive day. It's inexplicable, really, and maybe I'm just not looking close enough. Maybe if there was such a thing as newspapers, which don't seem to exist very much in profusion, it would be there as banner headlines every day. But even so, I tend to think that it would have receded. I find it odd that the American imagination is not fired by this in a way that it previously has, and I don't know what to ascribe that to. Maybe success.
How do you describe the success of the American military as far as you understand it? You and I are both civilians. We don't really know what they're doing.
Right.
We just watch. So how do you describe what you're seeing?
Well, part of it is, it used to be that we would be awed by the sight of the Tomahawk missile going through the window, and a couple of guys startled, look up, and then it's static. So we got used to that an awful long time ago. We got used to endless number of little videos in our Twitter feed when that came along of things blooming the night and exploding. What we don't have, the only innovation there seems to be in this one is the breaking of the spine of an Iranian ship. That was something that was quite novel. But we're used to perfection, it seems like. We're so used to perfection and an absolute lack of casualties that when a plane does go down, we're a bit startled. Things like, Barksdale got swarmed by some drones don't seem to cause the fear and panic that they might, because we have this general feeling we have this, and we also have one of the most lethal and effective partners that we've ever had in a war. So again, there's no triumphalism here. There's no great sense of we're just kicking ass and kicking butt and taking names. But I guess now we're bored with how good we are, which is
I don't think we are. I think that the media has been taken over by a left-wing cadre, legacy, big media, that doesn't really want America to kick butt and take names and win decisively over the course of 2 months. Because I see defeatism in the military. And almost every story, there's a twist to it that makes it sound like it's not going as well as it should be. And boy, the Straits of Hormuz it's not the Battle of the Atlantic. 3,500 ships went down. I'm just extraordinarily stunned by what people consider to be, the strait's closed. We pay a little bit more for gas. That's not what our parents put up with.
I agree that the media has this defeatist tone to it and has always had this defeatist tone. I remember during the first Gulf War that there was a shot before they went to a commercial of a pilot landing, and they played this sad, sodden music, this sort of echoey trumpet, minor key, Patton soundtrack stuff, as the pilot's head dipped down like this. And the feeling you were supposed to get was that he was burdened by the enormity of his mission and the destruction and the senselessness of it all, when he's probably just looking at a checklist or flipping something off, but they slow mode and make it sound defeated and full of angst and the rest of it. So I'm used to that. But that's different from, I mean, if people were out there clamoring for more, if people were out there actually wanting more, you would think that elements of the media would be smart enough to say, hey, this is what we can do for ratings. We can start giving them more. We can stop putting a negative spin on it. And you would think so. But there isn't, I'm not sure that there necessarily is that clamor of the media, because what people want, they can generally get from social media. And it may not always be right. I mean, there were people who fell for a line about the head of the IRGC bugging out for London, and it was obvious from the guy's name. It was almost like an Under the Bleacher by Seymour Butts kind of name. It was one of those names, and people fell for it. So the signal noise ratio can get a little bad on the internet.
Well, there was one true story. I want to know if you saw it, because you're observant. The Ukrainians hit a gas facility in Russia that was 1,000 miles away. I mean, it was so far away, no one ever... They're doing amazing stuff, and we're not covering... We used to love the Ukrainians. What happened there?
Oh, they were not the next best. They were not the latest thing anymore. It was Ukraine was the latest thing, and then ICE was the latest thing, and now this is the latest thing. Except it seems to be going well, and since it's off stage, the usual people who get spun up and go downtown with the pre-printed little slogans in it and wave them around aren't engaged, and that's good. I mean, the fact that we have not had that as many of the inorganic "here's your poster, go out there and yell" situations, that's probably good. But you're right. I mean, there are two titanic conflicts going on right now. Ukraine is one of them, even though it's been a long time and it's dragging and it's a meat grinder. They've been pounding and kicking butt on the Eastern Front, and the attempt to destabilize and replace the regime of Iran. These are big struggles, extraordinary struggles, and you would think, yes, that they would occupy the public mind and as such be reflected in the media. But because they're not reflected in the media, I think is partially a reflection of the fact that a lot of people, for whatever reason, just aren't as engaged in this as they have been previously. That might be just my take, but that's what I get. I'm scrolling
but if
away.
We lose our capacity, if we lose our capacity to recognize world historical events, and I don't use that phrase lightly, Russia, Ukraine, and the war against Iran are both world historical events. Will we have the ability to ever really understand proportionality in news?
I don't know. I mean, we look back and we see united cultures. We see people that were, shoulder to shoulder, marching, doing their victory gardens and the rest of it. But there was domestic discord. There were people who just paid it no mind. There, before the war and in the run up to it, it was all in the air. But there were people who did not want to face the titanic nature of the clash that was coming. So retroactively, it may look better than it actually was. But probably you're right, not like it is today. We need to be reminded that this is thing, and that's where the bully pulpit comes in. I wish there was more bully pulpitism, where we were getting strong, decisive, concise speeches about what's going on. And in the absence of that, perhaps people have concluded it's not as important. If it was, we'd be hearing bully pulpit speeches more than we are.
I hope they're coming back. James Lileks, thank you. Follow him on Substack, jameslileks.substack.com, and on X at Lileks. Hope you enjoyed that. Nadav Ayal, one of the smart people on Israeli government and politics. We'll post that over at my YouTube channel. As you watch the Salem News Channel, I've been showing you videos of Food for the Poor. I just want to repeat, we're in our last few weeks of our campaign, our annual Lenten campaign. Some great listener gave Larry Elder 10 grand yesterday. Thank you, whoever you are. We don't compete against each other. We're all trying to help Food for the Poor serve the children of the highlands of Guatemala and Haiti with clean water and clean food. They've been doing it for decades. Your $50 contribution will serve 2 children for a year. So please, if you can, call 855-359-4673, 855-359-4673, or go to hughhewitt.com. You've been thinking about it? Maybe you'll do it right now. Doesn't have to be $10,000. It'd be $10. Your widow's mite, as we say in the Christian church, is great. $50 is great. $500 is great. There's a banner at the top of HughHewitt.com. Please use that. Also want to remind you, interest rates have edged up a little bit, but they're in the band of high fives, low sixes for a 30-year fixed mortgage. The people you want to talk to are andrewandtodd.com. Throughout all this chaos, the 10-year just doesn't move very much, and it's not going to move very much until the Fed begins to drop that rate because inflation has gone down. The war will upset that. It's probably set back the inflation drop by 4 or 5 months. But don't wait because you're going to always refinance with andrewandtodd.com. Andrewandtodd.com have served thousands, tens of thousands of people call them from this program over the more than a decade that they have been here, including me for my home in D.C. They've done Dwayne's home. They've done scores of homes inside of Salem. They're just a bank, all right? Union Home Mortgage. Andrewandtodd.com are an office within that bank. They are lenders. They underwrite the loan, soup to nuts. They walk you through it. They want you to get it. They don't want to oversell you. They want to make you a repeat customer. If you need to buy a house, refinance a house, buy a house with nothing down because you're a veteran, get a senior citizens reverse mortgage for people who are 62 years and older, call 888-888-1172, 888-888-1172. And for veterans, if you want to do the really fast refinance, they've got the IRRRL loan too. I mispronounce it all the time, but they got it. They got everything. andrewandtodd.com, 888-888-1172. And I'm in the Relief Factor studio. Close out the show by reminding you. Took it in hour number 1. I reminded you in hour number 2, and I remind you again today. I'm able to broadcast north, south, east, west, wherever I go, because I got Relief Factor studios that look all the same wherever I go. And that's a great, great tribute to a great, great sponsor that I also happen to rely on to get rid of the minor aches and pains. Now, I'm a little bit weird this week because I'm dog sitting Ralphie the Wonder Westie, and he is the funniest doggone dog because he's running at full. Well, Westies don't go very fast, but then he stops and I go like backwards. So there are a few aches and pains that are not normal, but Ralphie is making me take my Relief Factor, and you ought to be doing too. $19.95 3-week starter pack. Call 1-800 the number 4 and the word relief. 1-800-4-RELIEF. I almost said 1-800-4-Ralphie, but it's 1-800-4-RELIEF. Or go to their website and find the starter pack, $19.95, less than $1 a day for 3 weeks at relieffactor.com.